Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Young. I'm just going to walk you through a presentation on unemployment insurance policies for the Government of Canada. Now, my presentation is only one perspective. It shouldn't be deemed the only opinion on unemployment. I would encourage individuals to kind of go out and look out to different websites to get their own assessment, whether that's Canadian Federation of Independent Business, Manufacturers Association, or government websites itself to get a more perspective on the programs. Here's a little bit about me. I'm a professional accountant by trade, but I've got a fair bit of experience, close to 25 years in industry as well as academia, so my perspective is going to cross different areas. I will talk about what is unemployment insurance. I'll talk about qualifications. I'll talk about job creation. I'll talk about federal budget. In general, I'll give you an overview of the policy and what's happening. Now, like most G20 countries, unemployment insurance, in a nutshell, is a social program to help those people who've been displaced in the workplace. And that's really, in a nutshell, what it is. It provides benefits. Now, that being said, it's a payroll tax, so that any sort of government changes to the rules or changes to the payouts or any sort of benefits improvements all come back in terms of the overall assessment of that program in terms of its cost. Currently, it's got about a $5 billion surplus in terms of the fund, which means basically when you're in a healthy economy creating jobs, you're likely driving less cost of the employment benefits out, therefore you're not feeding into that liability as much. Now, in the past, governments have used that liability when it's in a surplus, taken that back in after they've done their actuarial work as part of the budget cycle. The Liberal government did that in the 90s, and it's also a standard protocol. A lot of governments will use that money if it's proven that it's not required. Now, the biggest issue you're going to hear is unemployment's based on geographic, okay? So they look at the amount of participants in a particular area and they look at the rates there. So we have certain areas across the country that are more depressed than others. Now, that being said, what this doesn't take into consideration is we have a transient workforce. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people that may live in St. John's, Newfoundland, or may live in Charlottetown, but they actually work in the oil sands or the mining sector, which means as they come back after being displaced, but really it's a sector where they're being displaced by. So it kind of misguides the number in a roundabout way because they're not necessarily looking for work within those areas because those areas have restricted growth. This gives you an idea what's happened between jobs between February 2006. So basically where we've lost a lot of jobs in February compared to January, we're in the public sector. We've seen a lot of fiscal restraint come in. We're seeing a lot of cutbacks in educational funding. Not necessarily funding directly, but holding funding to 1% growth where actual expenses are growing higher. So you're seeing school boards, healthcare sector, especially hospital boards, make cuts to realign with the funding. And that's something that's not discussed a lot by the provincial level, but it's in play. But what you're seeing that's a good positive sign, you're seeing some good areas like construction and manufacturing that have done a rebound. And that's something to bear in mind. Now, the federal budget itself just came out. Now, the key aspects here, it's extended the maximum eligibility to 50 weeks in key areas. Now, those key areas are the most depressed areas. What it didn't really do, it didn't really go by a sector support. So it didn't really kind of say, you know what, the 50 weeks is good at a geographic area, but it should have looked at depressed areas like Alberta where you have oil sands workers being basically replaced right now due to low commodity prices, or in the mining sector and stuff like that, especially when they're transient worker. There should have been specific programs geared to those sectors, and that wasn't done with this budget. So basically it's also showing you that it's removed the waiting time period. Again, sometimes when you start reducing this stuff down, that cost eventually falls back to business. And again, this is a little bit more about pilot projects in terms of helping and work through things. This is what you're seeing here. Now, there's a big misnomer in general that Canada has not created jobs, but it's done pretty good since the 2014 where we've seen a lot of the commodity prices. We've created 238,000 jobs, net new jobs. That's a good trend in terms of when you're seeing slow growth globally, you're seeing that. But the good thing is about 151,000 of those jobs were full-time. And that's something that's never really discussed. They all talk about them all going into service sector, but not all those jobs are all in the service sector. And that's what this thing is basically showing you here in around about the stats. Now, youth unemployment comes up all the time. It's an area that's been around for decades. There's no quick fix, but we've made it kind of worse in a roundabout way because we haven't really aligned students with the opportunities where there are career prospects. What we basically have instilled with them for the past 2 decades is basically go get an university degree, go get a college diploma, but we've never really aligned where those skills gaps are. Some of what you're seeing here are certain links to presentations where you're seeing uptick in jobs. So that's something that needs to happen better as part of the overall skills development, is aligning opportunities with students and identifying those opportunities early on in education as part of doing the alignment. Job quality also comes up as well, and this is something that people blame things is, but job quality is a product of an economy. Depending on how an economy flows and grows in terms of from R&D to exports and development in terms of products going to market, will determine the type of jobs available for people. So in general, it's easy to say job quality is down, but why is it down? What sectors are not growing? What do we need to support those sectors to better expand and create more opportunity for businesses? And that's really what that's about. Now, the other thing that has happened in play too, as well as part of job quality, there's been advances in technology. We've seen a lot more automation, like digitalization, where we might have seen AP clerks in the past. We're seeing more work with analytics, where we're basically seeing the computer doing work where people may have done the same work previously. Okay, retailers are realigning their business, so about 20% of their business is now e-commerce, which means online business. It's not the walk-in trade anymore. So this kind of gives you an idea what's going on in the sectors that's driving the transformation of the job market. What's the issues facing employment in Canada? Well, the main issues are we have a period of low commodity prices. There's not basically going to see an uptick till maybe into 2017. So we're going to see slow growth in the natural resource sector. We're also seeing fiscal restraint imposed by a lot of governments in terms of getting the budget deficits down, which means puts pressure on delivering program spending, also puts pressure on headcount. Slow growth, that drives exports. Exports, for each $1 billion of exports, it creates 5,500 jobs. So it's easy to talk in platitudes about unemployment. It's easy to talk about one solution. But the key aspect is you need to keep your country in a cost competitive place. That means you have to ensure that you don't bring in more cost, and that's taxations, or bring in bad policies that's going to drive up the cost of business. So you have to be very tactical in your policy, because it isn't going to be one policy that drives employment. It's going to be a multitude of policies. That's why I always tell people in these presentations, the only way you fix something is that you go to the root cause. Throwing money at a symptom, the problem never goes away. So if you throw money just at training, it won't make the problem go away unless that training is aligned where there's opportunities for people to go into jobs to make an income from. And this is what I'm trying to instill when people review these presentations, to kind of give you an overview of policies that may not be said at the specific details. And I'm also coming to you from a perspective, I've been in business for 25 years, know what it takes, A, to develop employees, but also grow an economy. Thank you.